Welcome back for part 3 of our 3-part series all about using ChatGPT to write more content for your brand and business even faster than you ever thought possible. In part 1, we looked at how to use it specifically for writing blogs. In part 2, specifically for social media. And in this one, we look at writing books. The show notes for each of these episodes includes the video screen flow showing everything that Melissa and I do, and that can be found back at copythatpops.com/the episode number 220, 221, and 222. Since I talk a lot about writing books on this podcast and on my website, I'm excited for this episode. So without further ado, let's jump on in. All right, so how would a ghostwriter use ChatGPT to write a book? All right, so it says a ghostwriter could use ChatGPT or other similar language models in several ways to assist with writing a book. Some possible methods include generating text prompts. ChatGPT could be used to generate text prompts or writing prompts to give the ghostwriter ideas for different sections of the book. Research assistant. ChatGPT could assist with research by answering questions about specific topics related to the book, which can help the ghostwriter to write with more accuracy and detail. Language and grammar. ChatGPT can help the ghostwriter to improve their language and grammar when writing the book. Generating summaries, generating full chapters. I won't read the entire stuff. And then the conclusion is, it is important to note that while ChatGPT could assist the ghostwriter in many ways, the ghostwriter would still be responsible for the final content of the book. The final product should be reviewed, edited, and fact-checked before publishing. Very true.
So I'm just asking, what text prompts should a ghostwriter use, just to see if it'll give us some prompts?
Yeah.
So the text prompts that a ghostwriter should use will depend on the specific book. However, some general prompts that they could use would include overview of the main character's life, a prompt that gives a brief summary of the main character's life, including their background, upbringing, major life events, characters' major achievements, characters' personal relationships, characters' struggles and challenges, character's legacy and impact, research specific topics, quotes. It's important there again to remember that the prompt should be tailored to the specific book and information that's needed. I don't know if that's going to be like beneficial at all, but I can paste it just in case, I guess.
So let's say, what are 10 questions to ask an author you are helping write a memoir for? I don't know if that's worded well, but
what inspired you to write a memoir? Can you tell me about your childhood and upbringing? What are some of the major events or turning points in your life that you want to include in the memoir? Can you tell me about your education and career? How have your relationships with your family and friends influenced your life? Can you tell me about significant challenges or struggles you have faced in your life? Can you tell me about any accomplishments or achievements that you're particularly proud of? How has your perspective or understanding of yourself and the world changed over time? Can you tell me about any lessons that you've learned or wisdom that you've gained throughout your life? And is there any specific message or theme you hope to convey through your memoir?
I think that's great as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, let's say you have a client who wants to write their life story as a book and they hire you to be a ghostwriter. Let's say it's like your first time doing it or earlier on doing it, you might just get nervous. So you could do something like this to generate ideas and then do a phone call conversation with them, record it, and then transcribe their answers / just write out their answers, but in an interesting to read way, which is what your job is as the writer. Not necessarily just to transcribe it and print it verbatim, but to turn it into a really readable story. But this can help you get started, or even just maybe you already have an idea, but you want a couple other fill in the blank ideas for what to ask, or prompts to get you started. And this also just sounds like really fun, like as another podcast idea where you go and you ask these 10 questions or your top 5 questions, your top 3 questions to like every member of your family and share that as a family podcast, or like transcribe it and turn it into a family book to document your family. So it doesn't have to be just about one person. You could do this and capture the perspectives of multiple people and put it together as like an anthology. You could do that for a topic in your professional career. So if you want to publish a book, let's say on the best advice around, marketing or the psychology of advertising or something like that, you can go and interview multiple people who are experts in that field and then combine all their answers into the book, including your own advice, which is very similar to what I did with my first book, Copywriting for Podcasters, because I interviewed a bunch of people who were more expert than I was in different sections and put it all together.
2 things that came up for me is one, like if you're a blogger, how fun would it be to create these lead magnets? You could turn that into a Canva checklist or something and then offer it in exchange for an email. And then the other thing is, I know that ChatGPT integrates with different things, and I think I just heard this morning that it integrates with Zapier. So somebody, if they wanted to, they could literally create a website, have it be on the back end, have this be like a form, like a Google form or something through the website where people would go through and like answer the questions, go through ChatGPT with whatever their answer is to regenerate like the outcome. And then like you could have this website of all these different people's memoirs, or you could turn that into a service for people, right? Like there's just so many things that I don't even think we've scratched the surface of yet. It's pretty amazing. Do we want to use this, or do we want to just kind of like
What are we doing again?
we're doing the memoir thing? But I wasn't doing it like podcasty. I was just doing it kind of like
No,
to
totally.
have it.
No, I feel like this is going to go as our third podcast in the series. And I love how like our podcasts are getting less and less formal as we're recording them in the same day. Like, forget the intro. I'll do an intro later. Let's just start recording stuff and just brainstorming, because that's really how it works for people is you just sit down and kind of play with stuff and it generates ideas and gives you more clarity as you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if we were going to use this to write a book, of course you would want to know what topic do you want to write a book on? What do you want to be known for? So we were talking about writing a book on ghostwriting, or like how you can be a ghostwriter for other people. So I'm wondering too if we could be like do it for a niche, 10 book titles for becoming a ghostwriter for business leaders or something like that. So then it's more nonfiction based versus fiction. At least that's more my experiences with.
So I think that this is talking to business executives directly, maybe. Maybe I need to reword my prompt.
Ghostwriting for the C-suite, a guide for business leaders. I like that one, but I would say it wouldn't be a guide for business leaders. It'd be like a guide for new ghostwriters or something like that.
Yeah, so I think I need to get a little, so write 10 book titles for
Ghostwriting for business leaders.
Okay, so I just changed the prompt to write 10 book titles for becoming a ghostwriter who are writing for business leaders. And this is interesting. So the Ghostwriter's Blueprint for Business Success, how to craft compelling narratives for leaders.
I like number 3 as well, the Ghostwriter's Guide to Crafting Memoirs for Business Leaders, because that happens a lot. People come to me and want help telling their life story. Even though they're a business leader, they don't want to write about business. They just want to write about their life and what they've learned overall.
The executive ghostwriter, that could be somebody's brand, right?
Ooh.
Ghostwriting for the C-suite, crafting compelling business narratives. I feel like if you were writing about this, you're going to attract both people that want to be ghostwriters, but also people in the C-suite that are looking for their ghostwriter. And you're going to like really set yourself apart, in my opinion, as that niche, that person. So let's go up at the top. We have 18 pages of notes here. So we're going to start this up at the top for the book and just put our titles down. This first one, it's not numbered, but it was one of them. So out of these, which ones do you think we should start with, Laura? Do you like the Ghostwriter's Guide to Crafting Memoirs for Business Leaders?
I do like that. Also, what's now showing is number 6, ghostwriting for the C-suite. Although crafting compelling business narratives, maybe. I'm just not sure if anyone really describes it as like, I want to write a business narrative. So I don't really like that phrasing at the end.
Yeah.
Mastering the art of ghostwriting for business professionals. I like that. And also adding in busy business professionals, but although maybe that alliteration sounds weird. The executive ghostwriter telling the stories of successful business leaders. I like that one too.
I do too. Well, we can always go back and do the other ones. You want to start with this one?
Sure.
So we picked the Ghostwriter's Blueprint
for business success, how to craft compelling narratives from leaders. It's longer though. I'm always like too wordy, so just go with.
You can always have it be this one. Okay. So write a book outline for the executive ghostwriter telling the stories of successful business leaders. And let's see what it tells us. So this process, like the other one when we were doing the blog post in the other episode, was at 220. You want to get this all down, and then you want to come back in and just copy and paste and tell ChatGPT, write me the section on this, write me the section on this. Some areas you may want a paragraph, some you might want 3. One of the things that I've found is a lot of times it'll say in conclusion or in summary, even though you're not at the end of the book. So it's up to you if you want to have that in there, but that's where the human element really comes in.
Yeah, so did it do 5 different topics, or is it 4, not including the intro?
It's
It's like,
6, including the conclusion. So it's the intro, understanding
right.
business leadership.
So I'm just saying, like, as a book writer,
Oh,
if you don't count the intro and conclusion, like if you keep those as kind of like separate chunks, then it generated 4 chapters. Of course,
mhm.
you could count, the intro as chapter one, but it's definitely not long enough for a book. Could we ask it for more chapters or more?
Yeah, how many chapters do you think we would
Oh, there
want?
you go. So yeah, so write a book outline with 9 chapters, or actually, let's say 11, because it's going to include the intro and the conclusion as a chapter, I think, as it generates it.
Okay, so let's see what this says. This is interesting, and I don't know why it's standing out to me, but ghostwriter's role in the memoir writing process. There's something about that that just lands really well for me.
Yeah. And I think that is an important element because some people maybe feel like because they wrote slash edited slash guided the writing of it, that they deserve writing credit, or if the book goes really big, then like they should also be interviewed on the morning program or whatever along with the author. But I think a real professional ghostwriter wants the author to shine, and they're just helping get the content out of them and in a really clear way. But even though they're ghostwriting it, they're not the author. The author is the author. So I think that if you're going into this and you want to be in also sharing the limelight with the author, then that is okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it has to be very clear up front with the author going into it about, is your name going to also be on the cover? Sometimes that is the case. Like it'll be a big name and it'll say like, I'm just making this up, Barack Obama's biography with, and then the ghostwriter's name, or written by or edited by or whatever the ghostwriter's name, so that that person also gets credit. But many, many, many times the ghostwriter is nowhere to be seen. They're not on the cover. They're not mentioned in the book. They're never mentioned in interviews. So knowing that up front and being very clear about that and being okay with whatever you decide with the author, I think is a really important element of being a ghostwriter.
Yeah, kind of hard in some ways, I would imagine. One of the things I think is interesting, so one of the last sections before the conclusion says editing and revising the manuscript. And where you could come in, Laura, here has had another section that talks about getting it on Amazon,
Launch
becoming
it.
an Amazon
Yeah.
bestseller, maybe just linking to another book altogether.
Yeah. And what is the difference between traditional publishing and self publishing? Knowing that is important to also then guide your author, because the author might want to get a traditional publishing deal, which isn't good or bad. It just depends on what their goals are and their audience and their time that they want it to take to get out and all this kind of stuff. So the ghostwriter could, as a real professional, fully understand the differences between traditional publishing and self-publishing. And then if the author wants to go down the self-publishing route, they can also facilitate that and help them to publish it on their behalf, do a bestseller launch on Amazon, and then look to publish it on other platforms if they want, like Barnes and Noble and all the other places. Although I always like to start with Amazon for sure.
Yeah. And while Laura was showing that, I just told it to write the intro paragraph. I didn't give it any other prompts, but because I'm still on here and it's still working, I am not reading it right now to see if it makes sense or just kind of compiling it all in one place. But I just want to show like how extremely simple this can be, right? This section. How many
And then
paragraphs do you think this should be?
the introduction
No,
in
well,
general.
this is the sub of the intro. So the intro I have, and obviously people we can
Oh,
expand on
gotcha.
this for sure, but
Mm.
a sub of the intro is explaining the purpose of the book. So in introductions, are they usually, it can be as long or as short as it needs to be, right?
Yeah. So maybe like write 2 paragraphs per each of those.
Okay.
Once you kind of see it all there, then like as you're editing it, you're going to think of new ideas and new angles and specific examples and stories to add to make it even more valuable and relevant to you as the writer.
Yeah. What's interesting with this is, from what I've been told, it doesn't create the same information twice. So you could be doing it, I could be doing it, and it could give us different content, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So that's how you would write a book. You would just go through and tell it to give you the information on each section. And then I wouldn't have it in the same doc that we're using for all our other notes personally, but
Yeah.
just use Google Docs and at least you could get
Did you
your
want to?
draft done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you want to show them the AI content detector in Hemingway or send them back to episode 220?
Yeah, I would go back to 220. I think that I don't know that the AI content detector would matter as much for this one unless you're using this as blog post content. Hemingway editor would definitely make sense so that you can see. We could do that actually. Let's do that.
Yeah, or just do like a small paragraph.
The intro. I think you have to think about who you're writing for. If you're writing a book and you're writing for people that are highly educated, you probably don't want it to be at the third grade level. I don't know. Do you have any stats on that?
No, but I would say if you're unsure, err on the side of it being extra easy because this day and age, everyone has short attention spans, they're going fast. And I feel like that esoteric academic type of writing is less and less in favor when it comes to helping people online. When I first started my tutoring company with a business partner of mine, it was in 2011. And I used to edit the contractions out of his writing because I was like, it's not professional. We're a tutoring company and you're using contractions. This paragraph needs more sentences. And I totally had to unlearn that because no one wants to read these giant blocks of text. No one has time to sit there and, oh, I feel like I know what that word is, but let me look it up just to be sure. So I would say aim for as young as you can to understand it. It's like explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader. Explain it to me like I'm a third grader. Ooh, very cool. Rewrite this for a fifth grader.
So yeah, I just told ChatGPT to rewrite the section that we put into Hemingway for a fifth grader just to see if it comes up any different.
When you put in Hemingway, it came up as postgraduate
I've
grade
never written at
level.
a post grad level before. I'm so excited. But it also
and
tells
and
me that it's poor and I should aim for 14.
mhm.
And the whole thing was read. The whole thing was very hard to read.
Yeah.
So let's see. Going back to Hemingway. So I
Oh.
asked for fifth grade. It gave me 13. So that's
Mm.
okay. It made it a little bit easier, but still kind of hard to read. Let's see.
Some parts are red, some are yellow now, and it says aim for grade 9. So rewrite it for a kindergartner and see what it says. Oh yeah, or third grader.
I don't even know if I spelled kindergartner right. The Executive Ghostwriter is a book that helps people who write stories for other people called ghostwriters. That's my mom voice when I read. They want to write good stories about special people who work in business called business leaders.
Oh my gosh, this would be really cute. Like to help you write a kid's book.
Yeah.
Did it work?
I mean, it brought it
Because
down to
it's
grade 12, but I think what it is just
mm,
really long sentences. And I'm not even going to like read to see
right.
if this makes sense. But if you just randomly put periods in places, things get
Oh yeah.
easier. So don't do this. But
It likes short sentences.
yeah. And if you think about it, like most people that are reading, even if it's books, right? They're reading on an electronic device. And so short sentences just makes it easier to digest and understand. But it is legitimately possible for somebody to sit down, maybe block out 2 hours and have a solid draft of a book. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know what Amazon's rules are for using AI. So I would definitely have that human element added in there. I wouldn't just expect to upload something that ChatGPT or something else created for you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of thinking about ChatGPT as a ghostwriter for you. So even if you're
Mm,
a ghostwriter, ChatGPT is your ghostwriter. No one would ever just take what a ghostwriter wrote and just publish it online, or just like you would need to proofread it. You would need to make sure it matches your voice. You would need to make sure it makes sense and it's 100% clear and they didn't get redundant by saying the same stuff in the intro as they did in paragraph 1. So you still need to proofread it, even if someone you trust, whether that's AI or another human, has gotten it started for you.
yeah, you just sparked a thought. While we were talking, I told it to write creative journaling prompts because
Mm.
that would be another way. Like if you weren't necessarily doing autobiographical, that one, you were doing more creative writing. Like I'm not a creative writer, so this is what I would do to figure out how to get all that started.
Write a letter to someone you have lost and never got to say goodbye to.
I'm gonna put this in there because I think this could be another lead magnet that you could add to your website at some time if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I'm even thinking too, you could generate 100 writing prompts and then turn that into a book itself. And it could just be called a writing prompt a day for 100 days or whatever. I mean, that's not a good title, but like you could literally just sell a little easy book that just has one writing prompt on every page. So you just turn the day and you have a new writing prompt. You even put some space. So it could be like a low content book that a lot of people publish. Have you heard of that, Melissa? A low content book?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's
Yeah, other
smart.
examples of low content books could be word searches or blank journals where it's just lines or even just blank pages. Is that people literally sell books on Amazon that are print on demand and it's all blank pages.
We're just kind of going here. We're gonna have 100 by the time it's done. I think it'd be
Oh,
interesting to
wow.
do.
Oh, 100 writing. I love it.
Well, I was thinking we could also do, I don't know if we'd need 100, but like there might be something to do as a resource for ghostwriters too.
Hmm.
Or we could leave it here. I just think this is so much fun.
What were
Something
you
like
saying
this would be
before?
a super fun social media
Oh,
experiment
yeah.
too. Like we could
That's so
use
true.
this for our group.
Yeah. So episode 221. So if you go to copythatpops.com/221, we showed exactly how to make content for social media. But there are so many things cross pollinate. So some of these journal prompts could also be things that you could post on social media to get engagement. People might just find that really entertaining to share.
I asked for 100 and it gave me 41. So I think I reached the limit. So I'm just going to change this to 41. But,
Uh-huh.
if you could come in and generate them like one by one, but
Like
if
it
you were
says, write a
somebody,
poem about the ocean. Like I would love to put that on social media and see what people say.
you
All
totally
right, I'm going to do
should.
that.
I have a chat group of friends, and every once in a while they'll get on like this whole haiku kick, which I don't really understand what
Ooh.
haikus are. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell ChatGPT to create my haiku, and they're going to love it. They're not even going to
Oh my
know.
God. That'd be so funny. Like you all of a sudden become like this amazing author in your little friend group.
I know, right? They're like, Melissa, if they talk to me in person, I'm not even going to know. I'm like, I have no idea. I asked my VA to do it, my AI VA.
Now, and if I get any good responses, I'll include it in the show notes for this episode.
This is fun. Okay, so what do you think?
Yeah, did we accomplish our goal of helping people use this to write a book?
I mean, I think we did. There's so much content right now. I'm very overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah, for people behind the scenes, we recorded episode 220, 221, and 222 all back to back because we were batching our work. So this Google Doc that Melissa's got on her screen, if you want to watch the video, just go back to the show notes. Has got everything that we generated for the past 2 hours.
Yeah.
Being super nerds about ChatGPT.
But
But yeah, so
hopefully,
hopefully though that this gives people food for thought to get them started.
yeah, I'm just hoping that, if you're listening, if you're a writer, obviously you're listening to a Copy That Pops. So in some way, writing is important to you in your world. And, hopefully this sparks something. If it's what we're teaching and we're going through, then amazing. If it's something different, then that's even cooler because I think we're just getting started with AI. I believe that copywriters are going to be more needed than ever as we get going because you do need that human element. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot about is that they need people that are creating the prompts to put into ChatGPT. Yeah, hopefully this sparks something fun. If you guys come up with a fun social media post or whatever, tag us. We want to see what you guys
Tag
come up
us.
with. That'd be
Yeah.
amazing. So this is episode 222.
222.
So come back to the
Yeah.
show notes.
Copythatpops.com/222.
And if you want to get a hold of Laura, of course, copythatpops.com. And if you want to connect with me, I'm at bluebutterflydigital.com. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Many thanks again to Melissa for coming by and nerding out with me using the ChatGPT tool. I hope you put this to work, making your writing even faster, more efficient, and more enjoyable, at least as a great jumping off point. Let me know what you thought about each of the episodes, and we're happy to do more by request if you have different topics or themes you want to see explored with the AI tools. But in the meantime, I hope you're having a great day and encourage you to keep on finding ways to write copy that pops.